Fair. Hey, yo, guys, like and comment below if you think that I should buy Johnny a Big Baller Brand bucket hat, and grade out of 10 what you think that he would look like in that hat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Eurosteppers. I got Dav here on set with me, and we got a special episode today. You know, this past Wednesday, we had the NBA draft. And for those watching, just like, why don't you just like sit back, close your eyes for a second, and just imagine Adam Silver calling your name on NBA draft night. You know, growing up for a lot of basketball players, every young kid's dream is to hear their name called, and just like kind of seeing those dreams come to realization and come true for these kids. You know, it was amazing. You know, growing the draft, like watching the draft, like, you know, when Onyeka Okongwu got picked, you know, I was like tearing up. Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman, you know, it was really emotional. But yeah, every year the draft's one of my favorite moments. Dav, I'm sure you can say the same.
Yeah, bro. I mean, this was definitely an interesting draft because like there wasn't really one player that really stood out. So it wasn't easy coming up with a list of players like even like top 5 or top 10. That was like a little mock draft. But no, I think that this draft class is a little underrated. I think that's got a lot of promise, and I think these players are going to be really useful, especially this year. I think that this is one of the years where these players are going to have to come in and help their team out instantly instead of like trying to be part of a growth project, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And even, yeah, I agree with what you said too with the draft in this year. You know, it wasn't a very like top heavy draft, but I would say kind of in the middle, like it was solid throughout after the lottery. And even like late lottery too. Like after that, there was a lot of like really solid guys, like not like special, but not kind of like bums either. You know, like just solid,
like really good role players. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so let's get into it. So we're going to start with just a quick rundown of the top 5. So, you know, first overall, we had Anthony Edwards to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Dav, what do you think of that?
I mean, Edwards for me was the no-brainer. Like, it was definitely the safest bet Minnesota could have made. Like he's proven at the Georgia Bulldogs that he's a really great player. He has all the tools to score. He's a 3-way scorer. You could argue that he's like the NBA's most ready prospect. So yeah, for those reasons, I think that he was definitely the no-brainer option for Minnesota Timberwolves to go first.
Yeah, no, I would say I had him going number 1 as well. You know, there was some talk of LaMelo going number 1, but
yeah, that's true.
Anthony Edwards by far definitely like the most NBA ready guy.
For sure.
And just one thing that when I was watching the draft, I found interesting was kind of the amount of time Minnesota took to make that pick. You know, they used the full time. Yeah. And there was talks, like, I bet you that they were trying to make trades until the very last second.
I definitely agree with that, yeah.
Star someone who could contribute right away. So I was surprised at how long they took. But yeah, once the pick was in, like, and they weren't trading that pick, like, Anthony Edwards was the best option. And yeah.
You know, another little funny, or not funny, but interesting talking point, a little story that was going on was that before the draft, Anthony Edwards was talking about how he doesn't even like basketball, and if he could, he would join if the NFL asked him to go to a team, he would drop basketball and go there instantly. So I was wondering in the back of my mind if that would impact like his stock a little bit, but I guess it didn't. Minnesota picked him up first.
Yeah, like honestly, to be honest, when I first saw that, I thought it was like a little like kind of mental game on his part to like maybe not get picked by the Timberwolves.
It could have been.
Maybe, but you know, like with him and D'Lo and Karl Anthony Towns as well, I think that's going to be a really good trio.
Oh, it's going to be sick to watch
for them moving forward.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely looking forward to that. And like obviously they needed a guard, so like James Wiseman, as great as he is as a player, I didn't see him going first. It was definitely between LaMelo and him about who they would rather have as that guard. But yeah, seeing what him and D'Lo could do together is going to be really cool.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't turn into an Andrew Wiggins. People after that comment too are comparing him to that.
Andrew Wiggins ain't too bad, but yeah, he's no star. He's no number 1 pick, that's for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, you know, number 2, we saw James Wiseman go off the board, and especially with Klay Thompson's injury, kind of the day before. And just like on a side note, like I was actually really, really sad, really heartbroken because he's my favorite player to watch. And you know, we saw Danny Green jump with him, tear his ACL, and now this year is his Achilles. Like, man, like I actually like I was actually really sad. Like that kind of ruined my weekend.
It's definitely tough to watch players that have so much talent or just so good at the game, like be out. Like especially like these two guys together, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, are so like magical to watch. Like like these are box office guys. Like you want to pay as much as you can to watch these guys play, and it's really sad that we're not gonna be able to see them together for at least another year. There were like a couple of reports saying that the way he tore his Achilles, it's still possible to recover fully and get back to like as good as he was before. But Achilles are really tough to come back from, so we'll just have to hope and wait and see.
And on top of an ACL as well.
That's true as well. ACL is tough as well.
But yeah, and also just with that injury too, there was questions whether it was going to impact Golden State's pick at number 2. You know, with a shooting guard out, do you take another guard like LaMelo Ball at number 2, who they were kind of linked to before? I know there was talks of them trading the pick to get, say, like a LaMarcus Aldridge or kind of like a not like a superstar, but like a star kind of ready to contribute to winning now. But yeah, you know, kind of for the pick, James Wiseman, it was a solid pick by them.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad too they didn't really panic with the whole Klay Thompson thing and try to make a last minute trade. But yeah, kind of James Wiseman. Because the thing is too, like Golden State with Curry, with Draymond, you know, they got Kelly Oubre. They're not going to need Wiseman to really have a big role. You know, he'll be able to, you know, we saw Jordan Bell, I think, when he was a rookie, he was the starting center. And basically all he has to do is just get rebounds, finish in the paint, you know, play with Curry.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's pretty sick to be on a team where you got, like, Curry on your team, right? So, I mean, like, I already got, like, a 2-time MVP, so I think it'll be really cool. I know that I'm pretty sure he went to a camp of Steph Curry's a couple of years back, so he's definitely already got that connection there. But I think that Wiseman was definitely the best pick for them. I mean, like, they really needed a center, and this guy has shown a lot of promise to be, like, one of the greatest centers in the league one day. So I think that he's going to really fit in well as a role player and just clean up the paint and just do what he has to do.
Yeah, nah, for sure. I agree with that. And yeah, also I think Nico Mannion as well, who the Warriors picked up. He also was a camper at Steph Curry's camp as well. So just like kind of two guys at the camp, like that's sick. Like
and you know, that's my boy because that guy's got some Italian background and he actually speaks Italian. So when I found that out about him, already one of my favorite players in the league right there.
Nah, I feel you, bro.
Anyways, moving on to number 3, Charlotte Hornets. They picked up LaMelo Ball, the very controversial but star-studded guard. What do you think about that move?
I think it was the right pick for them. You know, I personally am not that high on LaMelo. You know, I don't think with the competition in the Australian League, you know, he went to go play in the NBL for the New Zealand Breakers. Or no, sorry, not the Illawarra Hawks. I think New Zealand was RJ Hampton's team, but yeah, I think LaMelo, like he hasn't really proved himself against like NCAA competition, even though those guys are still men. But he's obviously a great playmaker, passer for his size. His shooting mechanics, same as Lonzo. You know, there's gonna be questions there whether it can translate, but he definitely has the confidence and swagger for the NBA and definitely the playmaking abilities. I personally I think Lonzo was a better player coming out of high school than him. And kind of seeing Lonzo's success, I think it's going to be hard, but yeah.
That's definitely it's an interesting take that you've got. I think I would agree with you that Lonzo had more promise coming out, was probably the better player coming out. But I think that LaMelo's got more promise or more potential. You know, I think that there's no ceiling with this guy. He could either be a big bust or this guy could be an amazing like Hall of Fame guard. I think that like you said, he's got that confidence, he's got that swagger, and you know you're playing with the Charlotte Hornets, Buzz City with MJ. So I mean, that's already all the swagger you need right there. But you know, I think that they desperately needed a spark in this organization. I think that LaMelo Ball is a box office player that is not only going to translate success on the court, but also off the court in terms of ticket sales and like really building up that hype in Charlotte. So kind of giving them something to actually like to go and watch for once in a while, you know. It's been a while since Charlotte's had that, so that's good.
Yeah, and you know you got big baller brand coming to Charlotte too. So
yes, sir.
It'll be interesting to see, and yeah, you know, there's a lot of talking before with LeVar Ball and Michael Jordan, but yeah, you know, I think LeVar Ball, honestly, I think he's an amazing, like unpopular opinion, I think he's an amazing father, and like he's like a genius.
Oh, he's a marketing.
I have a lot of respect for him, and especially the way. Oh, go on.
No, I was just gonna say that he's a bit of a controversial figure, but like you have to give credit where credit's due. The guy is a marketing genius. To get 2 of his sons out of 3 of them into the top 3 picks in the NBA draft, that's unheard of. That's never happened before. And you know Christmas is coming up soon, so I'm gonna have to buy you a bucket hat Big Baller brand so you can rep that for next year.
Oh,
think that'd be pretty cool to see.
bro, I would actually. I know when like Big Baller Brand first started, like I actually wanted to cop a shirt, but like I don't know about the flip flops because they're like $200 or whatever. But
That's fair. Hey,
like,
yo, guys, like and comment below if you think that I should buy Johnny a Big Baller Brand bucket hat, and grade out of 10 what you think that he would look like in that hat.
I've rocked bucket hats before,
Yeah.
so maybe a little pregame drip, like showing up to games in bucket hats. I could repping Big Baller Brand. Who knows?
Hey, maybe LeVar picks you up. You never know, man.
But yeah, so number 4, we saw Patrick Williams picked. When I first saw that pick, I was like what just happened? I was like what the hell is going on?
I know, bro.
What's going on, man? Obviously in recent weeks leading up to the draft, there was a lot of like buzz around him. His draft stock skyrocketed.
Yeah.
I think he was ACC 6th man of the year at Florida State.
Yes.
But yeah, kind of, he's a good like athlete. Too, definitely a lot of NBA potential. High motor as well. But like, I don't know. I just think like you didn't start a game in college. How are you gonna, number one, be the 4th pick overall? Number 2, like, especially for a Chicago Bulls team that struggled, help there when they need guys who can like score the ball when things. So he'll be good for defense, but there's already a lot of guys who can play defense and have high motors, and especially for that number 4 pick, I think with the number 4 pick, you got to like look more at like offensive game and guys who can put the ball in the bucket. There was like Denny, Avdija, Obi Toppin as well. I thought that was like awful pick by the Bulls front office.
Well, I feel that I'll agree with you on some aspect. I wouldn't say it's awful. I think what I can understand where Chicago Bulls is coming from. I mean, there's very little chance that they're gonna pick up any guy that's gonna be able to like be like their star of their franchise. So I think that they had this more in the mindset of, okay, we're gonna pick up this guy and just build him up, just work on his game, get him to be as good as possible the player as he can be. A lot of players have talked about like that are already in the league have talked about how this guy got no ceiling. Like he's got a really big upside. One of those players were actually Bradley Beal, I believe. I could be incorrect, but I believe Bradley Beal was talking about how this guy's got no ceiling. He's an incredible already lockdown defender. So I mean, this guy's got really high IQ as well. So I think the Chicago Bulls took this trade. They kind of bit the bullet and decided like, okay, we're just gonna hold on to this guy and make him as good of a player as we can. Because I feel like he's more in for the long run than just immediate impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's for sure like a fair assessment. But yeah, if I was a Bulls fan though, like I'd
be pissed.
If it doesn't pay off, bro. Like I'd be super cheesed.
Yeah. But anyways, that we're definitely gonna talk about that one a little bit more. I mean, I've got that as one of my talking points later. But moving on to number 5, the number 5th pick in the NBA draft 2020. Isaac Okoro, drafted to the Cleveland Cavaliers. What do you think about this trade? Or sorry, this draft pick?
Again, another awful pick, being straight up. And even Cleveland too. Last year they used their number 4 pick on Darius Garland, someone who only played 3 games at Vanderbilt, tore his ACL. Went that high in the draft when there was way better players available, like Tyler Hero, for example.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think he was did not have a good season whatsoever. They already had Colin Sexton from the year before as well. So if I'm looking at the Cavs front office, I'm just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But not like Isaac Okoro, still a lottery pick. I think he's more of a late lottery guy, but for his defense and mental talent, kind of similar to Patrick Williams too. He already has an NBA ready frame at 6'6", 6'7". He can easily right away is going to contribute to being a lockdown defender, but his offensive game, there's a lot of question marks there with his ability to shoot the 3 and play make. He's a good driver finishing in the paint, but with those questions, and again with the number 5 pick, I think you can't really go that high for potential.
Yeah.
Personally, I think, I would say, but that's kind of my assessment. What would you say? How do you feel?
I'll agree with you on this. I mean, there's other they didn't really need a forward, if I'm being honest. Cleveland Cavaliers definitely needed some more guard depth. There was a lot of better choices that could have been made. I mean, Isaac Okoro is, like you said, he's still a lottery pick for sure. Just the thing is that this guy is terrible from 3. He's I think he's somewhere around 28% beyond the arc. The thing is that he does have potential to be a really solid 3-and-D wing.
Yeah.
But on the other side, they've already got a couple of forwards. At the time that they made this pick, they still had Tristan Thompson, but Tristan Thompson since has left. But along with that, they still have Kevin Love. Like, they've got a lot of forward depth. Them making this decision, for me, just didn't sit well. I didn't think that this is probably the best pick. Like, he's definitely a good player, just not the player that they need right now. I think that other players like Killian Hayes or Tyrese Halliburton would have been much better options for this franchise. But it is what it is. Let's see what happens with this guy.
Yeah, and for Cavs fans too, like kind of after LeBron left, it's been downhill, and unfortunately, you guys kind of get ready for a wild ride because doesn't look like it's getting better anytime soon.
Yeah, for Cavs fans, bro, I got a lot of respect that you guys are staying with this franchise. Ever since LeBron left, it just hasn't been the same.
Yeah. So yeah, that wraps up the top 5 picks. Now we're going to be talking about some of our sleepers and reachers. We're going to be starting off with some sleepers in the draft. So yeah, kind of sleepers from our definition is basically someone sleeper or a steal.
Yeah.
So steals in the draft, basically guys who you were either A, projected to go higher, or B, their draft stock dropped and teams kind of picked them up for low and they ended up being really, really good picks, and basically in general just guys that should have gone higher. So Dav, you want to start us off with?
For sure, yeah. I mean, this guy was a part of a 4-team trade deal. He got traded to the Nuggets. RJ Hampton got picked 24th by he was picked by Milwaukee, but what happened is that Milwaukee decided to trade for Drew Holiday in this huge package, and that landed RJ Hampton with the Pelicans, but then he was traded to the Nuggets. So he kind of had like a 3-team adventure to get to the Nuggets, but nonetheless, this guy, I think that he's definitely a steal. I think that his stock dropped a little bit. I think that part of it's because he played in the NBL, similar to LaMelo. So people don't really know how well this guy can match up against like more elite competition.
Yep.
But nonetheless, he's a 6'6", super athletic guard. He's like a 2-way slasher. He's really good elite. Has really, really good elite playmaking potential. And like if you're playing with Nikola Jokic, like that link up could be pretty insane. Like having him pass dimes off to you, running up to the basket and just getting easy layups. So I think that if he can improve his playmaking and just show that he's able to go 1-for-1 with these bigger guards, I think that Nikola Jokic, RJ Hampton duo could be really, really interesting to see.
Yeah, to be honest, I think RJ Hampton, I think he was still projected to be a first-round pick. Kind of late lottery, late first round, or mid to late first round. But yeah, to be honest, I think as a 6'6" point guard, and he's super athletic as well. Some people were saying how he's like low key the most athletic player in the draft.
Yeah.
I'm not really as high on him just because he's still young as well.
Fair.
But definitely his potential with his age and athleticism, and in general, I think he definitely has the potential to grow. But yeah, kind of in getting him at 24 too for the Nuggets, like a solid pick overall.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I don't know if I would consider him necessarily to be a sleeper, but still like
That's fair.
Solid pick overall.
All right, so you want to critique me? How about you tell us a little bit about your first steal / sleeper in the draft?
So my first steal of the draft is gonna go Tyrese Halliburton, who's not really that much of a steal.
He was 12th, right?
Yeah, so still lottery, but this was someone who a lot of people project to go top 10, even had him as the best point guard in the draft. I know Draft Express, ESPN, Mike Schmitz, he was really high on him. But yeah, I think especially for the Sacramento Kings as well, we've talked about them before being a bum-ass organization who have a really long history of screwing up in the draft. I think this was perfect pick for them. They finally made the right decision on a draft. And, I think it's really important to note too that the Kings GM, new GM Monte McNair, so he was the former Rockets assistant GM under Daryl Morey. So kind of being exposed in Houston, he's really big on advanced analytics and small ball as well. But yeah, so with those stats and analytics, this is something that's kind of Tyrese Halliburton's biggest appeal, just to name off a few. So he's excellent in transition. He was in the 99th percentile in transition points and assists. As a playmaker, he was in the 98th percentile in college basketball for points per possession with considering like points and assists together. And also as a spot-up shooter as well. Finished in the 99th percentile as well. So kind of his fit right next to De'Aaron Fox, who is a more ball-dominant guy.
Mm-hmm.
Get downhill. I think this was an amazing pick by the Kings. They got a steal. A great overall person as well. You know, in his interviews, a lot of people raved about his ability to speak. You know, high IQ guy. I think this is a perfect pick.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I couldn't take any away from what you said. I definitely agree that Tyrese Halliburton was a steal. The thing, like, he was like, being the top 12 is already pretty high, so it's hard to consider someone that high a steal. But I think that there's so many teams that could have taken advantage of this guy. Like, a lot of smaller organizations that really could have taken this guy, especially like the New York Knicks taking Obi Toppin over this guy. I mean, Obi Toppin is definitely like no scrub. He's gonna be a great player. The thing is, like, they really needed a guard, and not getting Tyrese Halliburton, I think is gonna hurt them for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, did you see his? If you watched the draft, did you see his girl as well or not?
Nah, I didn't,
Didn't
bro.
see her?
She
Okay,
a dime?
she was super dime, bro. It was like super dime. Like I was like, yeah, when I saw her, bro, I was like, damn, you know. But yeah,
So he's got good taste too, then.
Yes,
Oh,
overall,
wait, fair.
he's definitely biggest winner from the draft for sure. No questions about it.
Fair enough.
And yeah, so you have any others, like I guess your second steal
Yeah,
you're sleeping now?
I gotta represent my boys, the Milwaukee Bucks. This team has had a pretty bad history of first round picks, but they definitely know what they're doing in the second round. Let's not get that wrong. We got Malcolm Brogdon a couple of years ago, ended up being rookie of the year. I mean, the guy was in the 50, 40, 90 club. Pretty
Yeah.
crazy draft by us, our Milwaukee Bucks. But yeah, this guy Jordan Wara. I hope I'm not pronouncing that wrong.
That's correct.
Silent on the end, I think. Yeah, I think he's exactly what the Milwaukee Bucks need. He's a 3-point marksman. He's going to be a great 3-and-D wing player. He can already provide. He can already be a role player and provide for the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, like, imagine Giannis going in, attracting all of the players, and him just kicking it out to Jordan Wara and just getting a tray from beyond the arc. That's going to be really fun to see. For anyone that doesn't know him, he played at Louisville. He was in his junior year, and in his junior year, he averaged 18 points per game on 38% shooting from three. So, I mean, I think to get picked at 45th overall in the draft and get those kind of numbers out of a player like that, I think that's pretty incredible. But the one reason why I think he was so low is because a lot of teams didn't really see any athleticism in him. I know that he's been critiqued for not being great on the defensive side. So hopefully, like, maybe Giannis can give him a few tips, being the defensive player of the year and all, and just help him improve his footwork a bit, you know? So if he can do that, he can be a really great player.
Yeah, and not 100%. I agree with you on this one. You know, personally for me, even I thought Jordan Nwora was the biggest steal of the draft. At the beginning of the year too, you know, he was on the list for, I don't know if he was a first team All-American in the NCAA, but he was on the preseason list for that.
Yeah.
And before the college season, which unfortunately got canceled due to the coronavirus pandemic, like halfway through the year. So we didn't get to kind of showcase his abilities in March Madness on a very talented Louisville team.
Yeah, Louisville was balling too, bro. They're looking really good going in.
Yeah, and just with him too, you know, at the beginning of the year, he was projected to be like a lottery pick even. So to get a guy like that at number 485, he can shoot the three, space the floor.
Yeah.
Most importantly, too, for the Bucks is that he's ready to contribute now.
Exactly.
Yeah, by far, easily the biggest steal of the draft.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the NBA analysts were giving like because like there's a couple of big analysts that grade the draft after it happens, and almost all of them are giving them A's or A pluses for drafting this guy this late into the draft. So he's got a lot of potential for sure.
Yeah, no, it's amazing pick by the Bucks. And yeah, he's gonna be a really good NBA player.
Fingers crossed, bro. I mean, we really need it this season of all seasons. Got to get Giannis to sign on the ink on the paper. So we'll see.
For sure.
How about you tell us a little bit about your second steal of the draft?
Yeah, so I'm gonna go deep into the draft as well. The second round, I have Cassius Winston with the 53rd pick to OKC. You know, at Michigan State, I think he was Big Ten. I don't know if he was Big Ten Player of the Year. I forget. He might have been Big Ten Player of the Year. Yeah, you know, he's an experienced guard. And look, kind of diving into advanced analytics. He finished in the 84th percentile for pick and roll points. So he's amazing in the pick and roll. He's a 40% 3-point shooter. and overall just a leader, established winner. And I kind of would compare him to Fred VanVleet, Malcolm Brogdon, a guy who stayed all 4 years in college. And I think a lot of teams are sleeping on him. He's a bit undersized, not necessarily athletic or explosive or super quick, but I think he'll be a solid NBA player, and he'll kind of follow in the footsteps of Freddie and Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah, I rate that. I think that I like that comparison to Fred especially. I think that this guy's definitely a great pickup this late into the draft. The one problem is that he's a great pick and roll player, but who's OKC got to pick now? No one's gonna be his pick partner. I mean, they gave up Steven Adams, so they don't really have that many players to do that pick and roll with him. So that would be a little bit interesting.
That's actually a really good point. I didn't even consider that. But yeah, OKC. Maybe, with all the picks they have, they'll probably find.
Yeah, bro, they're gonna draft the whole goddamn league probably.
Facts, bro. No, 100%.
Anyways, moving on to our overrated players or our reachers who we thought got drafted a little bit too high in the league. How about you start us off with who you thought was a big reacher in this league?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with my first reacher was Isaiah Stewart at number 16 of the Pistons. This was a guy coming out of high school. He was a 5-star recruit, one and done player at Washington. Still had a really good season there. He averaged 18 points per game, but he has a 7'4" wingspan too, which is really attractive. But at 6'9", kind of undersized for the center position. In today's NBA, can't really space the floor either. And I just think this was a guy who was going to fall definitely late to the first round, even second round. So for the Pistons to kind of trade up to get him at number 16, I thought a really kind of bad move by them. And I don't think he's going to have a successful career in the NBA.
Fair enough. The one thing is that I know that the Detroit Pistons traded away Andre Drummond. So where would that leave him with a center? I feel like this could be a good pickup for them. Maybe a little bit of a sleeper. I feel like because obviously they're missing. They don't have a center right now. Correct me if I'm wrong. They might have traded for one in this free agency. I mean, this free agency has been absolutely crazy so far. I can't even keep up with all the Woj bombs that are going on right now. So it's been tough. But as it stands, I believe they don't really have a center. So Isaiah Stewart could just plug in already and just already start cleaning up the paint and just picking up rebounds, just doing what centers do best. So I don't know. That was my take on that.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I would say, straight up, I don't think he'll be a good NBA player, but we'll see.
Fair enough.
What about who's your first reacher?
So my first reacher, we already talked about it. He was talked about a little bit. He was picked number 4, Patrick Williams. Got drafted to Chicago Bulls. I'm not going to speak about him too much. We already talked about it a little bit, but yeah, I think that number 4 for someone that is a little bit uncertain, and we're not he has a lot of potential, but obviously with high risk becomes high reward becomes high risk as well. So drafting someone like this at such a high pick when there's so many better players out there, that's why I've got him as a reacher. I know that his stock went up so high because he was I think he's the youngest player in the NBA draft.
Yeah.
Some stat like that. So obviously he's got a really bright future ahead of him. But yeah, I think that they should have gone with a little bit of a safer bet, like Tyrese Halliburton, like you said earlier. But anyways.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, we were already talking about him earlier, and yeah, definitely super, super reacher for sure.
Yeah,
I agree with that. My next reacher was number 10, Jalen Smith to the Suns. This is kind of he was an interesting pick, but for the Suns, they already have DeAndre Ayton, but I guess they already have guards and wings too. I think they would have been better off taking Tyrese Halliburton as a backup point guard to Chris Paul, especially since he's getting old as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jalen Smith provides a lot of length, rim protection, amazing shot blocker. He averaged 2.4 blocks per game his sophomore year at Maryland. And he can also space the floor, which is, he's a 37% three-point shooter. This is not something you see from centers, especially guys like him who are just ridiculously long. So yeah, I thought this was kind of not necessarily a bad pick because he's a very intriguing prospect, but in terms of Phoenix, they could have definitely made a better selection here.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, we're plugging in Tyrese Halliburton everywhere right now, saying they should have gone Tyrese instead of this guy. But obviously, at one point, this guy's got to get picked, right? So I think that it's not a terrible pickup. I definitely scratched my head at this one. I was like, okay, Probably not the best player to pick up right now. Definitely a little bit of a reacher for sure. And the thing is, like centers are so it's not the same way that it used to be in the draft where getting a center, like a high rated center, was like really smart. And like, because centers are usually like guaranteed good players. It's usually more like guards and the forwards that are a little bit have the higher potential, but they're more high risk as well. And usually, like,
Yeah.
if a center's good in college, they're going to be good in the NBA. But obviously, the NBA has changed a lot, and getting more of like those 3-and-D forwards or really dynamic athletic guards that can defend well as well are more highly rated. So yeah, getting him this high for me was just a little bit of a head scratch. And I know that a lot of NBA analysts gave this a really poor ranking when they when the Phoenix Suns drafted him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I actually really liked what you said about kind of big men too in the draft. Kind of they traditionally have high floors, but not as high ceilings. Talk about the guard, and even over the years, we've seen kind of the number one picks. Kind of the past decade, we've seen a transition from team selecting bigs to guards just because they have higher ceilings. But yeah, so you talked about Tyrese Halliburton. It's almost like we've just been saying his name everywhere. Tyrese, if you're watching this, just know that you're a beauty.
Oh, for sure, bro.
And I sent a DM to your girl, so being straight up. So forgive me if you.
I'm not sure he's gonna want to come on anymore after you said that, but yo, Tyrese, if you're hearing this, bro, hop on the podcast sometime. Anyways, moving on. So we talked a little bit about the trade or the draft and what happened in it. I think it's a little bit interesting to talk about what happened outside of it and about who didn't get picked. So I think I'll start off this one. Personally, for me, the most underrated, undrafted prospect that I feel like, how the hell did teams pass up on this guy? I feel like so many teams could have used this guy. And for me, that's Marcus Howard from Marquette. He did end up getting signed a two-way with the Nuggets, but I feel like a lot of teams, especially later on to the draft, like in the second round, definitely missed out on signing someone this elite. The one downside to him is that he's 5'11" and he's a guard, so he's very, very undersized for a guard. But the thing is that he averaged 28 points per game in his senior season, and like for me, that's ridiculous, averaging 28 points per game. And I think that like there's a lot of talk about, okay, this guy's not the reason why his stock is so low and why he didn't get drafted is because he's tiny. But on the other hand, if you're this small and competing against other guys that are going to get drafted and you're running laps around them, scoring 28 points per game, I mean, does size really matter that much if you're doing all of that against the players that are going to get drafted ahead of you anyway? That's my take on that, at least.
Yeah, nah, for sure. Marcus Howard, he like a straight up bucket. Averaged 28 points per game. And yeah, I think too, like kind of probably the primary reason why he didn't get drafted was because of his size. 5'11". It's gonna be tough for him in the NBA. But nonetheless, like he still signed a two-way contract with the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
He'll find his way into the NBA for sure. Like he'll end up on a roster. But yeah, when you're that talented, we saw like Trae Young, for example, he averaged 28 points per game, still undersized. Look how high he went. Marcus Howard, for sure, he definitely deserved to get drafted. And yeah, I was like, to be honest, when I first didn't hear his name called, I thought that he was still a senior at Marquette. But then I found out he wasn't. And I was like, how could a team not draft this guy?
Exactly, bro.
But yeah, I really like that analysis and that pick for you. Then yeah, my undrafted or kind of one undrafted guy that really stood out to me was Miles Powell, sorry, not
Powell, yeah.
Not Power. Thinking about Austin Powers for a second.
Yo, that series is a banger, bro.
It is.
Austin Powers, you can't even disrespect that.
Oh, 100%,
anyway,
bro.
Yeah, tell us about Miles Powell.
Yeah, Miles Powell, Kenny, if you're watching this, I know we talked about it on draft night, how a lot of people were sleeping on him. But yeah, he ended up signing a two-way contract with the Knicks, which is good. But again, just another straight up bucket. He averaged 21 points per game his senior season. He was the Big East Player of the Year in 2019-2020. He won the Jerry West Award, which goes to the NCAA's best shooting guard, and was a first-team All-American, similar to Marcus Howard as well. But yeah, this guy, he can just flat out score the ball. Kind of, I see him doing something similar to Terrence Davis. Terrence Davis was undrafted.
Yeah.
And on the Raptors, I think he averaged 6-7 points a game. This year, another guy who's just a really talented scorer. But yeah, this guy can just straight up flat out scored the ball. I know the Knicks drafted Alonzo Trier, a couple like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, who was also undrafted, kind of similar to him. Went to New York, had an amazing rookie season, averaged 14 points per game. But yeah, I think for sure Miles Powell. A lot of teams are going to look back on draft night and go,
regret it.
yeah, like how the hell did
For
this
sure.
guy not get drafted?
Yeah. I couldn't agree anymore with you. I mean, like, these two guys are absolute studs in the fact that they didn't get drafted. But you know what? Credit to the Knicks and the Nuggets for getting in there quick and taking advantage of signing a two-way with them. It means you have to pay even less money for them. So that's definitely a dub. Yeah, I think that Miles Powell, I don't know too much about him, but yeah, I've heard that he was definitely a player that should have been drafted that wasn't. I think that a lot of it has to do with what player or what NBA teams really need right now. Like, I know the Milwaukee Bucks had the exact last pick, number 60, and obviously like Miles Powell is a great player, and people be like, okay, why didn't the Bucks pick him up then? But the thing is that it really depends on what the team needs at that point, and what Milwaukee needs right now are players that can contribute right away, which Miles can do, but then also elite 3-point shooters. And Sam Merrill, who was drafted 60th, is someone that perfectly fits in that description for what Milwaukee needs right now. So, I just think that as great as Miles Powell is, I think that it depends on what each team needs right now, and maybe that's not what they needed. So that's what I think about that.
And yeah, just on top of that, just one last thing to add too is I think age plays a really big factor as well. You know, these are two guys who spent 4 years in college. And yeah, I think a lot of teams are kind of driven away by that factor, the fact that maybe they don't have as much room to grow as they're already 22. You know, there's definitely kind of more enticing guys at 19, 20 years old, but mostly 19-year-olds who have that room to grow, have that couple of years to develop in the NBA. But for sure, I think teams definitely are sleeping on guys who go through all 4 years in college. You know, there's, again, Malcolm Brogdon, Fred VanVleet, kind of two other guys that these guys could end up as. And yeah, I think in general it's a trend in the NBA. It's unfortunate. It obviously is understandable as teams want athletes and they look for potential. But yeah, I think it's really too bad that with all the production they put up in college and it kind of goes unrecognized and teams don't really see that value and kind of don't look at the stats necessarily, but kind of the eye test for certain prospects.
Exactly.
They should really look at production. You know, at the end of the day, if you can produce, you can produce, you know?
Yeah, like I was saying about Marcus Howard, these two guys have proven that they're able to get buckets constantly. These two guys are just straight up bucket getters. Like, anytime they want, they're gonna pull up and just shoot and get a bucket. Like, that's what they do. So I mean, it's kind of funny. Like there's all this analytics and like scouting that goes into trying to get the best pick and with the best potential and all of that. But then you're overlooking a guy that already has proven that he's great. So that for me is a little bit ironic. Like, you're looking for the next great guy, but you've already got two guys right here that have proven that they are great and that they can contribute already to being part of a great organization in the NBA. So that for me is a bit of a head scratcher. I just never understood that. Like, and also we're talking like 24 is old. Like, maybe compared to 20.
NBA terms, it is old, but
I mean, I think I would disagree. Like, you still got like at least another, like, if you're smart about it. Obviously, NBA is like one of the, unfortunately, and it's really sad, it's one of like the highest injury rates of any sports league. But I think that 24 is still generally very young. Like, you still got at least another 10 years ahead of you if you're smart and you manage yourself right. So, and 10 years is pretty good value, especially if you're getting players like this. So I don't know. I think I disagree with that whole age thing, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not an NBA draft analyst, so I can't speak too much about that.
Not fair enough.
All right, guys, that wraps up this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and shout out to the people that made it to the ending. This was definitely a fun video. Like Johnny said at the beginning, NBA draft season is always the best time of the year. Like, seeing how things switch up, what kind of teams are going to make runs for the playoffs, or what teams are going to scrap everything and rebuild. So if you enjoyed it, make sure you like, and if you really enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe down below. We really appreciate that support, guys. Also, tag our boy Tyrese Halliburton in the comments on our upcoming Insta post. We're trying to get this guy on the pod with us, so we really appreciate that. You can find us on IG at the Eurosteppers Podcast and on Twitter at the Eurosteppers Pod. Next week's topic, we're going to be talking to you guys about free agency and what teams are going to look like coming up into this upcoming NBA season. So stay tuned. I hope you guys enjoy, and peace.